morning, everyone. Hope everyone's doing well. It's 52 degrees here. It's sprinkling a little bit. It's not too bad. So I wanted to quickly make a video to talk all about GM. You know, I get a lot of comments, feedback from folks saying, well, you need to review more General Motors vehicles or trucks. The other half say, are you biased against GM? And the answer is absolutely 100% no. I actually owned a Chevy Duramax back when they first put Duramaxes in Chevys. I think it was 2002. And then I owned another one that was a 2004 model Duramax. And I liked them. I thought it was a phenomenal truck. Actually, I was a huge Chevy fan at the time. And I would tell you that I was 100% biased towards Chevy. So people are going to ask me what happened. Why don't you drive a Chevy today? Why don't you talk and make more videos about them? And I'm going to tell you, it's not because I don't want to make more videos. It's just because they haven't gone through a lot of changes. The last significant change that they made to their vehicles, I believe, was in 2014 on their half-ton line, 2015 with their three-quarter-ton line. And, you know, it was a pretty extensive change. I wasn't doing reviews back then. The trucks that I've walked around, including a 2500 HD work truck as well as a 3500 HD Sierra SLT single rear wheel Duramax truck, and I think I've done even a few more in there, and I've made several videos on GM. But the reason why I haven't done any recently is because the new Duramax engine is not available yet, and I've scoured my area, and when I say my area, about a 300-mile radius from where I'm at, to see if I could find one so I could do a full review on it, and none of the dealerships have them yet. It's a little odd because most vehicles tend to launch their 2017 models at the end of 2016, and I think we are kind of at the end of 2016, so I would have expected something by now, but nothing's been out yet. So beyond that, am I biased against GM? And that's the next question. And the answer is no, I'm not. I am actually a fan of trucks, period. If somebody turns out a good product, I want to talk about it, I want to show information about it, and I think that General Motors makes a good product. What I am a little disappointed with is that if you look at the technology that they put into different aspects of their vehicle, you kind of scratch your head sometimes. You say, why did they do that? And the reason why you ask yourself that is because it's a valid question. You don't have to be biased against a vehicle to be critical against a vehicle. And I'll give you an idea. I talk a lot about waxed frames. I think everyone knows that. If I'm out there talking about a General Motors truck, I always point out the waxed frame. And the reason I do so is because it's peculiar as to why they stuck with it. That's not necessarily one of those if it ain't broken, don't fix it kind of topics. It's just the point that everybody, the industry has switched. Why haven't they? And furthermore, it's more because if you bought a truck that has that waxed frame, oftentimes the dealership doesn't tell you. And unless you're just a person who studies trucks, you don't know that you have this wax coating on your frame. So after you've driven it for a year or two, or even a couple of months, and it starts getting that nasty, dirty haze on it, a lot of times you'll take it to the car wash and try to pressure spray all that stuff off because you're just not aware that it's wax. And I think that they should just switch to a painted material. It's easier to take care of. It's easier to repair from a finish perspective. If it starts getting scratched or damaged, you can just spray over it. So that's one. Number two, I recently walked around a 3500 HD Chevrolet LTZ truck, and it was beautiful. I'll show you some pictures during this and some little clips. It was a nice truck, but what I found real quickly was that the frame had excessive numbers of holes in it. Now, I understand that there's going to be holes where you can mount a fifth wheel hitch, or if you have a truck that has overload springs versus one that doesn't, it's still going to have the holes in the frame, so it can be prepped for that in case it gets that option. I understand that. But there were some holes on this frame that just didn't make sense to me. They were in areas that you just wouldn't really expect to see huge holes. I'm talking 3-4 inch diameter holes on both sides of the frame. And I wonder if that was done for weight reduction. I really can't think of any other reason except maybe there's a machine that attaches to that part during the waxing process, and that's how they do it. I really couldn't tell you, and I want to find out more about that. But yeah, the point of this is I don't hate GM. I really like their vehicles, and I'm very excited to test drive a 2017 model because I think there's probably going to be a lot of good positive changes. Hopefully they add rear AC vents. They may not, but hopefully they do. Hopefully they switch to an E-coated frame. They may not, but maybe they will, right? Hopefully they'll eliminate some of the holes in the frame. I don't know. But what I'm personally trying to tell you is that I objectively look at every vehicle I review. And if there's something that I particularly don't care for about any of the truck manufacturers, I'm going to point it out. And I think that makes me more unbiased than it does biased. So that's the point. Hey everybody. So I'm here today looking at this Chevy Silverado Duramax 3500 HD. This is the LTZ package. I really hope that there are a lot of really good surprises for the 2017 model though once it starts coming in. But you can see how this part really protrudes up and out, which can make it a little difficult if you're hitching up like a fifth wheel or a gooseneck and you have to crawl over the tire to get into the bed. I definitely like to see them make those dually fenders a little smaller on trucks. I think it makes it more practical. So the leaf springs themselves look to be probably 2/3 the thickness of the leaf springs that are on my F450. And then of course you now see that they use these dual overload springs. It's a smaller spring. They're probably progressively rated but more designed for comfort, which I can understand. Plus, anytime these two components here make contact, it generally means you're going to have a significant amount of weight in the back, like a fifth wheel or a gooseneck, or you're just going to be towing pretty heavy. Otherwise, it might make contact if you have a medium amount of weight and maybe you go over a bump or something. This particular truck does have the puck system that General Motors now installs in their trucks as an option. So you can actually see where the mounting plate and the underside of the fifth wheel hitch is. I do see an access hole right up here. Which is interesting to me because that's a very large hole to place in the actual frame itself. And as I scan over this frame, you'll see all the holes on the other side as well, especially back here. And they're actually pretty large too. And there's quite a few of them. Whereas when I was reviewing the Ford, one of the interesting things to point out is that you actually couldn't really find many access points. If I had my caliper with me today, I'd actually measure the frame thickness here so you could see. But again, to be fully boxed, that's a very large hole going all the way through the frame. And just to point out again, this dually has that same hole right back there. Through this hole, there's also another big hole on the other side. Another concern that people have with the trucks is the def tank location, which is down here. On the Ford and the Ram, it's actually in the back and it's almost level with the frame rails, so it doesn't sit too low. In this particular truck, it is the lowest component in the vehicle. And if I had to actually tell you, it's maybe only a foot off the ground. I think it's a beautiful looking truck. I think they definitely put a lot of time and effort into making it look very robust and be a very strong truck. I'm sure you wouldn't be very likely to have a lot of problems with it. But the point of this video is to kind of point out the differences between these trucks. And here's the front suspension on this particular dually. I do believe GM makes a very high quality truck. There's no doubt about that. Again, here's the puck system. In this particular truck, it does have a spray-in bed liner. One thing I can tell you I really like about GM trucks is that they do use high-strength steel for the bottom of the bed of their truck. So this is going to be a stronger base for a bed. I also believe that the tow mirrors that are used on General Motors trucks are superior to Ram's tow mirrors. The step on the rear bumper is actually a really good convenience feature. I believe they patented it, otherwise it would make sense that all manufacturers went to that, since it's typically unused space on the bumper. But I think that's a great engineering design that they've added on GM trucks. I know I've mentioned it before, but I really like the fact that they put front parking sensors on their trucks as well. In this particular case, it has 4 of them, one right there, 2 up front, and then 1 in the other corner. I also like the design of the wheels on their dualies. For being a 17-inch wheel, the center cap really makes the wheel look massive and robust, and it's a very nice setup. I think that Ford really needs to put more thought into the wheels on their dualies, but the way the center cap looks on these trucks make them look very nice. I think this is a beautiful truck, and I think it's made very well. Again, if anything, I just like to point out the things that I don't particularly care for on a lot of vehicles, but because I think that's really the best way to be unbiased at the end of the day, is to let you know what the differences are, but also the differences that you don't particularly care for. And I think I've done that for all the trucks. Anyways, if you like this video, I'd appreciate it if you subscribe and give me a thumbs up. Thanks, everyone.